Oh my gosh, I am so excited that we're here. Thank you all so much for coming out. I am here live from Burlington, Vermont. I am so happy to be here, just about 20 minutes from my house. I'm Sam Ewis. This is the women's game live in Vermont. Thank you. We're here at Higher Ground, which is such an iconic Vermont venue. Higher Ground has hosted some of my favorite artists, The National, Charlie Crockett, The Decemberists, Bob Dylan, Noah Kahan. I want to give a little sense of what tonight is going to entail. Tonight, in the place that I call home, we're going to revel in the strong sense of community that Vermont is known for, the growing soccer culture, plus some of the people who make this place special will be joining us on stage, including renowned women's soccer journalist Meg Linehan, and key members of Vermont Green's founding group and women's team. I know. I'm so excited. I'm also going to share with you what brought me here and what I love most about this place. Spoiler alert, it's maple creamies from Little Gordo. Not only am I a proud Vermont resident, I'm also the editor-in-chief of The Women's Game. Thank you. A women's soccer vertical brought to you by the Men in Blazers Media Network. We produce podcasts and shows centered on emotional storytelling about women's soccer all around the world. But next week, I'm taking on a second job. I'm extremely honored to be the head coach of the Vermont Green women's team. Vermont Green is the local soccer club here, but the club is not just focused on soccer. Its mission is actually to combat climate change and use soccer to make a more environmentally sustainable and socially just world. The men's team is currently playing in their 4th season in the USL 2. I think some of them are back here. And they're off to a really hot start this year. They're undefeated so far. The women's team is about to battle it out in 2 sold-out exhibition games next week. Will some of you be there? And just for the record, the women's team is undefeated in all of club history. We're 1-0. That one game is part of tonight's story, the story of how I lost soccer and then found it again here in Vermont. My goal for tonight is to bring what I love and what I do to all of you, to Vermont, and to share a piece of Vermont and Vermont soccer with our national audience. This show is being recorded and will be shared on our Women's Game YouTube channel after we're done here. Most importantly, I ask that we all commit to 3 things tonight: supporting our local team, having fun, and laughing at all my jokes. This has the potential to be my ego boost for the whole year. Okay, so here we go. Before we bring our wonderful guests on stage, I wanted to chat, just you and me, to kind of set the stage. It's kind of a long story, and it's a little bit sad for just a second, but stick with me. The sad part will be over before we know it, unlike Vermont winters or a fish concert. So I'm a former professional soccer player, and I was so fortunate to have a successful career. I won trophies in the NWSL. I won the 2019 World Cup. I got a bronze medal at the Tokyo Olympics with my sister by my side. And I've played all over the world, including in England with Manchester City. But ultimately, my career was cut short by a knee injury, and this is the sad part. I went through a really hard time dealing with the injury and the aftermath. During 2022, I was fighting to come back from a surgery, and I just kept hitting the same wall over and over again. All I wanted was to get back on the field, but I couldn't get healthy enough to do it. Retirement seemed imminent, and all the medical advice that I got told me to stop. But I just couldn't accept it. It was emotionally really the lowest point in my life, and one that I'm honestly still recovering from. I feel like this injury was taking so much away from me. I felt like it was unfair, and I couldn't believe that as a player who took such good care of my body, who tried to do everything right all the time, that I was the one whose career was getting cut short. And I really struggled with this for a long time. After 2.5 years of surgeries and rehab, it started to become clear to me that not only was playing not going to be physically possible, but it wouldn't be the right decision for me even if it was. I realized that I really value my body and my ability to move, and it started to feel like that single-minded approach to playing soccer at the highest level would jeopardize my health. So I started a very slow and ongoing process of emotionally stepping away from the game that I had known and loved and played my whole life. And I tried to come to terms with a new life, one without my friends who I played and traveled with every day, one without my family coming to see me play, and one with a totally different schedule, different goals, different people. I think the biggest challenge for me was trying to come to terms with the idea that I had been really, really valued as a soccer player, but I didn't know what else or who else I could be valued for. And that is when Vermont came into the picture. In the fall of 2023, my husband Pat and I came to Burlington for the weekend. This was our first time here. We grew up in Massachusetts. I can't believe we had never been before. We rode our bikes on the bike path. We saw the foliage. We had a couple of great meals, great coffees, beers, and the whole time we were here, we kept looking at each other like, is this place the best? It was the proximity of nature to a city that was accessible, bike-friendly, home to great restaurants, even coffee shops that you're meant to sit inside and not just go through the drive-thru. It was the idea of giving our dog Finn a backyard, and it was familiar to us in the sense of being part of New England, where we grew up, but also different and laid back in a way that we hadn't really experienced before. So on literally the whims of one weekend here, we bought a house. And it would have been the shortest episode of House Hunters ever. A few months later, I formally retired from soccer and announced my new job as editor-in-chief of the women's game on the very same day, and all of a sudden, I'm here living this new life. I have this new job, we're here in Vermont, I learned Slack and Google Docs. My life looks really different, but I'm starting to like it, and I can see the light at the end of the tunnel that I had been in for the past few years. I go for long walks with my dog, and I learn about Champ at the lake. I ride my bike on the causeway. We start a small garden. We go to the farmer's market. It's really nice. I'm way more connected to nature than I ever have been in my life when I'm not on Slack. But I think nature is one of the first things you notice when you move here. The second thing I noticed was the community, because that's when you all started showing up for me. I met my neighbors, Kevin and Coral, who brought my husband and I a welcome basket when we first moved in. The most neighborly thing to do, and it had the best marshmallows in the world in it, Vermont Marshmallow Company. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I made friends with people at Zero Gravity. I made friends with local business owners, like the girls at Poppy, Ian from Vivid Coffee, Sifa from Wilder Wines, Matt from Mayday. I made friends with the parks manager at my local park. Shout out Andrew, who I think is here tonight. And then once I made friends with all these folks, I started running into them everywhere. I would go out for a beer for groceries, and then I'd just run into my friends there accidentally. This happens to me way more often than non-Vermonters would believe. I love it so much it feels like I'm living in the 90s. I suddenly have what feels like this enormous social network, and I am connected to soccer through work, but I'm just subconsciously really missing being out on the field, the feeling of being on a team. And then just like that, I met the Vermont Green guys. I went out to an Open Cup game to support the men's team. I got put in touch with the founders of the club, and we started chatting. The co-founders, Sam, Pat, and Matt, who we'll be hearing from on stage in just a few minutes, asked me to be involved with the formation of a women's team. Eventually, they asked me to coach for this single exhibition match, and I think initially I said no. I was like, there's no way I have time. I have this podcasting job. I have this blossoming social life. Don't you guys know I have to go out for coffee and accidentally run into my friends on the weekends? I also honestly wasn't sure that I could do it. My knee, isn't 100%. I was nervous about being out on the field, and I genuinely didn't even know if I would enjoy being around the game like that. I was still so heartbroken about losing my career. Did I really want to coach, or was it actually going to be painful physically and emotionally? Eventually, I said yes. I don't even remember what prompted the change of heart, but I agreed to coach the team. So last June, we had 3 training sessions followed by our 1 game, and as I learned the girls' names and started giving them pointers that I had learned during my soccer career. Great ball. Good run, Neve. Who's in? Who's in the box? Yeah, go. Sorry, go ahead. Ah! Ow! Ow! If anybody else wants to go out wide, you're invited. Bailey, if you can shape your body when you receive that to just turn, so start facing more forward. That way you have options. This is wild. We're a new team. We're a green. It can be whatever.
It's got to be green.
Green's on 3! 1, 2, 3! Greens! I heard a lot of laughs at some of that advice. I'm going to stand by. That was good advice. Start facing more forward is elite soccer advice, just so you all know. So basically, I realized I had a lot to offer, but I also started panicking. What if we lose 6-0? What if I become the laughingstock of Vermont? My coaching career that I hadn't even wanted to begin with would be over before it started. So then I'm in the locker room with the players before the game, and I felt like they really wanted me there. The game started, and I realized how good it felt to be competitive again, to make crunch time decisions, to really care about the outcome. And I was having so much fun that it wasn't even really about winning. Obviously, I'm just kidding. Well, we won the game in penalty kicks.
It's over! Vermont Green win their first ever women's match in style. The historic night ends with the cinematic victory. It just feels like a fairy tale. This team had so little time to go from the match being established to putting a team together to training. And now they get the result they've worked so hard for.
I was so happy. I felt so embraced by the community here. The soccer field, which for the last 3 years of my life had been a really painful place for me, came back to me in a really happy way. So now we're here, a year later. I'm about to coach the women's team again. This time we have 2 games at Virtue Field, twice the stress. And that brings us back to our show tonight, a local story that I really want to tell to our national audience. Vermont and the soccer community here have become so special to me. The way that this place supports ideas coming to life, community coming together, and keeping people and the earth centered through all of that, it's truly a one-of-a-kind place, and we're here to celebrate that tonight. So with all that said, let's get this show on the road. I'd like to bring our first guest on stage. She is a trailblazer who has forged a path for women's sports journalists here in the U.S., someone we've watched climb all the way up to women's sports lead at the New York Times, The Athletic. It's writer, podcast host, and Burlingtonian Meg Linehan. Okay, Meg, I want to go back in time to before you were one of the most esteemed journalists in the game, before the NWSL was at the level it's at now, maybe back to when we were playing at high school stadiums and it was still rare for games to be on TV. Jennifer Garner and Serena Williams were certainly not investors in clubs yet, and you were paying your own way to games in order to cover them. You threw yourself into this game at a time when it wasn't popular to do so, and I'm curious where that passion for women's soccer came from.
I was definitely a kid that watched the 99 World Cup, and that was a life-changing thing. I also knew pretty instantly I was never going to be able to play at that level. You got to be comfortable with that pretty early on. I look back at that time, I had actually compiled this binder of coverage of the 99 World Cup, and I've never been able to find it in, the childhood house. But now I'm like, oh, I should have realized what was about to be happening, that I was going to cover women's soccer. But, it is really funny. I was an intern for the Boston Breakers in the first professional league. I wrote game updates in HTML because it was before Twitter. So, it was...
I kind of don't really know what that is, but it's not because of my age.
It is.
Because okay.
Yeah, it is. It's fine. We're going to leave it there.
Do any regular listeners to the podcast know about my Under a Rock segment where I explain all of these things that I should know about, but I don't? I think this is one of those things.
You just gotta... Does Lynn know? Probably not. That's fair. How much coding of MySpace were you doing?
My mother is here in the room. I was not allowed to have MySpace. I was allowed to practice, and thank God. Okay. So your passion was kind of born out of this 1999 Women's World Cup, as was mine, as was, I'm sure, most people our age. I want to know what the early days of the league were like. I've mentioned that we were playing in high school stadiums. We've mentioned that you were paying your own way to cover. Paint a picture for us of what your job as a journalist was like in those days.
Yeah, so I was paying to get places. Boston, obviously, that's where I was living at the time, so it was a little bit easier. They were playing at Dilboy Stadium in Somerville.
Remember that?
Yeah, I think I got yelled at by that grounds crew, probably more than anyone else in my entire career. For media coverage, you'd be lucky to get one mainstream outlet out to a single game, right? I think there was always a yearly story about the NWSL that was, this league exists. Isn't that weird? Who knew? Women's professional, it's the third attempt at women's professional soccer, and I think the games, you could see the beginning of the league, right? I think about that first championship. It was Western New York versus Portland Thorns. It was out at Western New York. I think 24 Thorns fans traveled out of this beautiful love, and yeah, it was just like the most kind of ridiculous but small and kind of, like if you showed up to a couple games, the players would know who you were because no one else was doing it.
That's incredible to hear. And back in those days, we were also worried about the status of the league from year to year.
Yes, always.
Meaning 2 leagues previously had folded, and so 2013 to 2014, would the NWSL keep coming back? And as we fast forward to today, to 2025, there are more ways than ever to watch women's soccer here in the U.S. Not only are games around the world more accessible on traditional cable networks and streaming sites, but there are also more teams than ever. The NWSL is expanding to 16 teams across the country. And just this year, the USL Super League brought teams to markets that previously hadn't had the opportunity to watch professional soccer in their areas. We even recently learned that there will soon be not 1, but 2 lower tier second division leagues from the NWSL and then the independent WPSL. So many tiers, so many abbreviations, I know. I want us to talk a little bit about these new leagues and what this means for teams, players, and of course, fans. New people and companies are getting involved because it's such a great investment at this point, but I want to know, as somebody who's been around, what are some things you like to see from folks that are new to the game and new to the business of soccer?
Yeah, I think there's obviously a ton of investment happening all over the place. I think now the question is, can you build cooperatively instead of everybody trying to like carve out their little area, right? And I think that's always been one of the weird issues around the space in American soccer, right? You think about the pyramid on the men's side too. There have been leagues that have come up and failed and come up and failed. And so I think we see what USL is doing. I mean, Vermont Green, obviously a great example of having the pyramid fully functioning and seeing players have this pathway to eventually go pro. But now the question is, okay, you've got 2 Division I leagues, potentially 2 Division II leagues, and so are they cooperating? Are they working together? Are they trying to do the same thing? Are they trying to do different things? Are they collaborative? And that, I think we see it a little bit, but that is, I think, one of the bigger struggles of just the landscape of, because all of a sudden there is so much money and attention in a way that, I mean, when you came into the league, it wasn't there, right? And so it's a good problem for women's soccer to have, but I think because we want to see success and we want to see a sustainable league and a league that protects players above all, these are now the big questions that everybody needs to look at.
Definitely. And obviously the ubiquity of women's football in 2025 speaks volumes about the appetite for the game. It's popping up everywhere. Are there any precautions against growing too fast? Where do you think these gaps still exist in these kinds of quickly forming structures? Obviously, there are gaps in this pyramid that we're talking about. And what are some things you're weighing as the game grows so quickly?
Yeah, I think there's, we've seen valuations in the NWSL just absolutely skyrocket. I mean, when Michelle Kang bought the Washington Spirit for $35 million, everybody looked at her and was like, what are you doing, right? The Seattle had sold for $4 million, and all of a sudden, $35 million was on the table. Now we're at $250 million, higher, Chelsea, right? And so I think the big questions about the player pool and player development, right? Like there's a real opportunity here to begin that development of players across all levels of the game. And I think that's what I'm really excited about. You get more professional players out of it, but you also have to develop coaches, more women coaches, more referees. You need more administrators. Like, you have to have talent in the front office, in the technical staff. And so do these people exist? And you want the barrier to entry to be high. You want quality people in your organization. And so I think that's probably the number one question just facing all of these leagues coming together at the same time.
Is really this investment into all of the people that will make professional women's soccer top class.
Yes.
That makes a lot of sense. I do want to talk about Vermont and the Vermont Green. On the men's side, this club sits at the USL 2 level. That's pre-professional, meaning it's more of a developmental platform for college players in the summertime to train and play games. Players aren't getting paid because they're maintaining their college eligibility. But that doesn't stop Vermont Green from providing a professional environment for players, putting on professional feeling events for their fans and community. Meg, I want to talk about this level of soccer in America. Why is this level important for players, and why is it a perfect model for some markets?
Yeah, I mean, I think Vermont Green is so special. I mean, like you, I moved up here, right? And I also I wanna state for the record that when you came up for that weekend, who did you text?
It was you.
Correct.
I texted you. Meg was one of the first people I texted when I first moved here. She gave me so many great recommendations. A lot of the places that I named were recommendations from Meg.
Yeah, I wanna get my flowers for that because I made you a custom Google map, right? Like
Was that custom?
Yeah, that was for you.
Okay, so I texted Meg. I'm thinking about moving here. She sends me this Google map with all these beautiful places on it, but I thought it was the Google map she was sending to everybody who's coming to visit Burlington.
That was
but it
one
was
of one. Now I
me.
use it for other people, but you were the first one.
Well, it worked.
Okay.
It's Vermont tourism's #1 resource.
I know. But yeah, Vermont Green, just in terms of, I mean, for the players, I think it is really special. The environment at a game too, right? Like I think even when you see opposing teams come into Virtue Field and react to the fans at Virtue Field, that's when you know that is a powerful environment. And I think the training environment, like fortunately the guys have had me out to a couple of training sessions. It's just like, it's such a nice vibe there, right? And so I think it gives the chance for, these players to be in a team environment through the summer, to maybe not have as much pressure as being in with an MLS team or even MLS Next, and to get real meaningful minutes and have meaningful games. And from a community point of view, I think there's just something so honestly very beautiful about Vermont Green, because like I grew up going to New England Revolution games. I've obviously been to any number of NWSL games throughout the years. But there's something about, 2,500 people on a summer night at Virtue Field that feels very different, right? It feels so much more tied to this community. You can look through the stands and be like, oh, I know that person, I know that person, I know that person, I know almost everyone here, feels like. And that, I think you get that community at NWSL games, you can get it but you have to work so much harder sometimes to find that community and make it your own. Whereas here, you kind of show up and everybody's just like, hey, I mean, that's Vermont, we're chatty.
I recently saw you at a Vermont Green game, and you had
Yes.
ridden your bike to the game.
Yes.
And I love hearing you talk about knowing friends at the game. Like, that's what I was talking about at the beginning of this. It's like you show up somewhere, I feel like I know half of you, and I probably do. I want to know a little bit, I know you're a Vermont Green season ticket holder. What sets the fan experience apart from other clubs? What, beyond knowing people in the stands, being able to
Yes.
ride your bike, what is it about being there that you love?
Yeah, I mean, even like turning the corner on my bike from where I live, you get that view of Camel's Hump over the back stadium. Like that immediately is kind of like, okay, now I'm in the mood for soccer. It's the food trucks, right? It is zero gravity in the beer tent. It is, big ups for zero gravity. It's just like, it feels so Vermont. And I think there's like parts of it that just like I honestly find so delightful. The fact that, God bless them, they play the Beyonce version of Lift Every Voice and Sing as, and I'm just like, oh, I love how you have to cut it before formation starts because it's the homecoming version, and you're like, oh, cut it, go. All right, we're moving on. It's just like, it's so Vermont.
I love Vermont. Okay, well, as we know by now, we're gearing up for 2 women's games
Yes.
next week. And as someone who has advocated for women throughout her career, shining light on some of the inequalities and even abuses that have unfortunately been a part of our history here in the U.S., what are your hopes for women's soccer in your home state? And what would you like to see this women's team turn into?
More. Let's go. Like, we need a team. I don't know, like, Sam, are you ready to become, like, coach, media person? Like...
I don't know if that's allowed. Yeah, I'm ready. We're doing it.
Yeah.
We're doing it.
But I do think hopefully there is some push here from Vermont that will then, create a few teams nearby, because also the climate part of it is so important to Vermont, and so you need teams that are in a certain proximity. Mm-hmm. But that's the other part. Like, you think about the team like Pally Blues, right? And how important really lower division soccer has been for getting players in a place where they could potentially make the national team. And how incredible would it be to have a player who had Vermont Green on their resume that eventually made the national team? Like, that could be the dream.
I love that. Let's manifest that. It could be somebody from this season's roster.
Got the talent.
I'm here for it. Okay, well, Meg, you and your wife also just announced that you're expecting a baby.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
As you enter this new chapter of your life, and as you think back to that early 2010s Meg
Yeah.
that we discussed earlier in the show, what's been the overarching lesson that you've learned about sports and community during your career so far?
Yeah, I will say my wife from the jump has been like, you just cannot wait to have a little baby at Vermont Green games. And I was like, 100%. Like, first of all, you guys got to make baby merch. Like, I need the cut, like, we got to get on it. There's youth, but there's not baby. We got to, we got to have a fully geared out. I do have the Vermont Green scarf already set for the nursery. It is a Vermont themed nursery.
Oh my gosh.
Like, again, I'm a caricature of myself. But yeah, I mean, 2010, like, first of all, 2010, Meg probably doesn't expect to have kids, but there is, I think, just something, I mean, all of my friends really have come from this space, and I think there is something just so, like, good knowing that I'm going to have a kid grow up around the U.S. Women's National Team, probably. Like, I can't wait to bring a kid to a U.S. Women's National Team game. So, also, fun fact, we are having a boy, which is, like, yeah. So I'm like, they're just going to be surrounded by really cool women. And that's very exciting.
Oh my gosh, she's going to be very cool. Meg, this was so much fun. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
If everybody could please join me and be upstanding if you're able to, as we thank Meg Linehan for joining us tonight. Our next guests are two of Vermont's finest and two of Vermont Green's co-founders, Sam Glickman and Patrick Infurna. Sam, Pat, if those names sound familiar to any of you, it's because I am also Sam, and my husband is also Pat. I told him to try to sound like Mr. Norwal from Elf. Do you guys know the sea creature who goes, "Bye, buddy, hope you find your dad"? I think he did a really good job. Okay, anyways, back to us. So the four of us have taken to numbering ourselves when we hang out because otherwise it's just a cacophony of Sams and Pats. So for tonight's sake, you'll be Pat number 1.
Perfect.
And I think you have to be Sam number 2.
Happily. Very.
Okay, I'm glad that's been established. So none of us were actually born here in Vermont, yet we all find ourselves drawn here, living here, making our lives here, teams here. I want to know more about your early experiences with this place. What's your first memory here, and what makes Vermont special to you? Pat, number 1, why don't you go first?
Yeah, well, first of all, I think I'm Pat number 2. Because Pat, actually, when we did the photo shoot, I was Pat number 3.
We were with another Pat recently.
Just
It
out
was
of control.
literally crazy, and he was Pat number 3.
But no, to answer your question, I mean, I wasn't born in Vermont. I was born in New Jersey, but my family moved to Vermont when I was pretty young, so like, it is pretty much my whole life. I mean, we started coming up when I was very young, moved here, went to high school here, played soccer here at a very low level, extremely low, like. But no, this is just, it's been home. I went to college here. I mean, left for a few years after college, but then came back, and this was sort of like the vision. So.
Yeah, Vermont's home now. I grew up in New York. I'm a New Yorker by birth. When I was about 10, my parents packaged me up and shipped me to Vermont every summer, starting from 10 to 18, to go to summer camp. So shout out Camp Sangamon down in Pittsford, Vermont, where actually another one of our speakers is from.
Yep. Shout out to Pittsford.
Yeah, incredible place. And that was really my first experience with the Vermont community. You know, this camp is an outdoor boys camp. We have a sister camp down on the lake adjacent, but you really are just, encouraged to be a smelly boy out in the wilderness and, shower twice a week, mandatory. Opt into the rest. But really just an incredible place where people support each other. You're really connected to the earth and really is reflective of what we try to now do at the club.
I love that. I love you only have to shower twice a week. I think that applies to all people who live in Vermont now. And I'm excited about it. I didn't know that. Okay, so we have the place. We love Vermont. Now can you tell us a little bit more about the people? Who was involved in making Vermont Green come to life, and how did this all come about?
Yeah, so our other co-founder, Matthew Wolf, is a seasoned soccer player. We played soccer in college together, as well as a designer. He's designed for some of the biggest clubs around the country, around the world, and early in the pandemic, when community started to evaporate, he started getting on the phone, chatting with some friends about how we can build something that is intentional, that would bring folks back together. And then, a couple of years later, lots of Zoom calls. We all found ourselves together here in Vermont building. So, a lot of friends came together to help build it, over that course of time. And, we didn't know if we'd have 1, 10, 20, 100 fans at our first game. Turns out we got 1,001. So, yeah, for you all. So just very appreciative of, what it's become.
I think when you're starting something, you're trying to meet a demand or fill a need. What about Burlington told you that there would be demand for this level of soccer? Did you know this was the right thing to do?
Yeah, I think growing up in Vermont, I think I always dreamed of something like this. In Vermont, we sort of, professional sports aren't a thing here, right? So you sort of you enjoy community in other aspects. But I think that we're having such a special moment for soccer where people are realizing that I don't need to just support a team that is in Boston or New York, let alone only a team that's overseas. You can build community where you live. And I think again, I think the way that soccer is growing in this country, it's uniquely equipped to have people realize that they can latch on to something that really belongs to them. And Vermonters just are community-oriented people, and something like this, we knew that if we just made it look and feel right, and it made it reflect the way people enjoyed every aspect of their life, that they would hopefully latch onto it. And I think in many ways they have, which is super cool.
You guys have described to me that a lot of your brainstorming sessions, these business sessions, thought starters, are done over dinner and late into the night at one of your houses. I want you to take us into one of these sessions. First of all, what are we eating for dinner? Who's cooking?
Ooh, it's usually a big takeout meal, more Indian food or Thai food or Chinese than you've ever seen on a table, and it's a feast. Friends are welcome to join in. It really is just a good time to share ideas and, be productive.
No one sits down. Everyone's just constantly moving.
Pacing around.
Yeah. It's
full of ideas.
This club is founded by people who are just always walking around in circles, in the same room.
There's a ball either being bounced to each other or kicked on the floor. We're addicted to the game.
Yeah. There's I was thinking of a recent one. It was actually after the photo shoot that we did with you for the pre-match top.
Did you guys see those pictures? How amazing were they?
Patrick McCormick is an incredible photographer.
The jerseys, the photographer.
So Patrick is actually...
The models.
Patrick M, in this situation, he's Patrick 3. He's still pretty new to soccer, and he's kind of falling in love with it in real time since the club started, and he was really... stoked to photograph you. And in that late night session, we actually watched every Sam Mewis highlights video we could find. And we just sat there eating and being whoa. And so we were catching him up.
Well, perfect, because we're actually going to show every highlight of me right now.
There's a lot
That's
of
the rest of the show.
There's a lot of videos. We watched
I was kidding.
them all.
We don't have any of them. Okay, so I love this. I feel like you've set the table for us literally with these brainstorming sessions. Do all of the ideas that come up at these brainstorming sessions see the light of day?
They spend a lot of time in the incubator. We're a bit, obsessive in our thoughts and how we build. We want to do everything intentionally. We want to do it to the highest level possible. I think a lot of the ideas we share with our community. We talk with folks at games. We chat with the players on the sideline. Even just earlier today and yesterday, we were at the training pitch and we're bouncing ideas off members of the club, coaches and interns. Shout out interns in the back. And that's really how our ideas get incubated and they start growing. And then we're like, oh wow, this is too good to pass by. We need to build the women's team sooner rather than later. We need to grow the women's team. So yeah, it's just exciting things like that really just do they snowball down a hill, and then the community starts showing the support, and one thing leads to another.
I imagine as the club and the men's team started to come to life that you were so deep in the details of the day-to-day. And you mentioned this moment where you were we don't know how many fans will be at the first game, but there was 1,001. Was there a moment in the first year that you were able to kind of zoom out and say, you guys, we just literally started a soccer club?
No, not really. I don't think we've zoomed out since. It's kind of nonstop for these first 4 seasons. But no, to a degree, I think yes. We this thing is a constant work in progress, and I think we're constantly reflecting. But it's pretty much every match when we walk out there and we see how many people are enjoying themselves, how many people are again just investing themselves into the club and the concept that maybe was started with us, but like we always say that pretty much at that game with 1,001 people, it stopped being like our thing. It started being like it started to belong to a lot more people than just us. So yeah, I think the reflection comes often in just like being grateful for that.
Yeah, I feel like there have been a lot of monumental moments. Noah Khan, we pictured him earlier wearing a Vermont Green jersey. You started the women's team. You played in an Open Cup game. Affirmative moments like that. I may have just named them, but can you think of a few of those that really made you guys look at each other and be like, this is so sick that we're doing this?
Yeah, we're pinching ourselves all the time. This is still a fairy tale. It's a dream, the best dream I've ever had. It's incredible. I think the NoahCon one is a great one. We were able to collaborate with him and the Busy Ed Project, which is this nonprofit that works on mental health, and we helped get them into some jerseys, which we sold for his charity at their benefit concert, which you were at as well. We all got to celebrate together. And yeah, seeing him on stage, that's surreal. Like, you couldn't have pictured that, years ago. But yeah, what about you, Patrick?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's so many moments that happen like on the field that make that happen. Like this team has delivered so many like just iconic moments for us. But yeah, I think there's just it's the culture moments like that I think resonate like as well. Like even like when we were on this stage a couple of years ago with Raj from Men in Blazers, like these things that allow us to take what we're doing here in this relatively small place and sort of blast it to the like world and make it like. I think just Vermont and this community has such a ability to punch above its weight in its like relevance and its I don't know. I think those moments are always really cool.
Okay, talk to us about the women's team. Bringing the women's team to life is obviously this big added layer to what you guys have been doing the past couple of years, and must have and obviously required a lot of thought and discussion, figuring out how to do it in a way that made sense for the club and the resources of the area. So there's not a lot of local women's teams for us to play in a league with right now. When did you think, yes, this is the logical next step, we're having a women's team, and this is how we're going to execute with the constraints that exist?
Yeah, I think with Vermont Green FC, we're both, we're simultaneously like, extremely thoughtful at everything. Like everything takes like many nights of like just thinking of every aspect, but also like acting like quite like impetuously at times as well. Like I think like the concept of having a women's team was like, pretty much like when we started this, it was always like this can be anything it wants to be, and we believe it is like ceilingless in that way. And so I think we always were like, it'll be awesome when we get to the point where we feel sustainable enough to have women's soccer. But I think it was like with that idea always there, it also came to life in like a very short amount of time last year, where we were just like, let's just do it, and and we. Yeah, just like called everyone we knew. The most important person we called was yourself. I don't think I knew you said no first.
I might be remembering.
Or maybe I might have just like pretended that didn't happen.
I think I was like, I don't have time for
no,
this.
No, maybe that. Yeah,
and
you're a busy
thank
person.
God I changed my mind.
Yeah. So but yeah.
Yeah, we start the idea. We pull in our sporting group. Shout out to Adam Pfeiffer back there. He starts building, a women's roster of staff, starts chatting with Sam. He's like, yeah, she's in town. And I think she's into it. And he gets really serious with us. And we're like, yeah, this is like the missing piece. The people who are coming out to help us build it. We've got the women's team who just landed today. They'll kick off training this weekend. And, it's a quick sprint. We know this week is less than we want to be able to provide long term. But it's 1 week. Last year we had, I think, like 5 days with the women's team on the ground, and being able to grow incrementally and add more games, hopefully one day join a league, and then build it as big as possible.
I am so excited. Obviously, environmental justice and social justice are huge pillars of this club. You've set a goal to become a net zero club. You fight against racism in soccer. You're part of 1% for the Planet, which is a Burlington-based nonprofit working on behalf of the environment. Can you talk to us about this mission and how you make the pillars of the club a part of the player and fan experience?
Yeah, so this club wouldn't exist without a mission, and the mission wouldn't exist without the club. We see them as immediately ingrained from day one. We try to incorporate the mission in our decision-making processes across the board. A lot of those late night chats, we're asking those questions, and then we're trying to call people who are much smarter than us to help us, advise us, and push us in the right direction. But yeah, it's in the first meeting with our players, we have welcome meetings, and we tell them, you don't need to be experts at what we're doing, but we expect you and to show up and be willing to learn and being willing to engage with us in conversation and really just take this opportunity, treat it like school, but ask us questions. We're accessible. We make ourselves extremely available to explore ideas that people bring to us as well. We touched upon sort of the match day experience, and Meg mentioned, the community space, seeing people but it's just been incredible how people have reached out to us to tell us what they want to see out of the club, and we really want to continue to encourage that. But yeah, back to the players, our players' community events are part of our business model. It's part of how we show up with our community. King Street Center, local youth organization. Yep, big one for that. So we donate time there. We donate time with other youth soccer clubs, and we try to just be ingrained in our community in any way possible.
Yeah, and I think the mission for the club is the North Star, and it's like the everything sort of revolves around it. And I think we end up having a lot of conversations about what the mission means and what the depth of each of our pillars are and how we achieve them and all these things. And we're constantly working, and we're constantly looking for the people in this community who are the real experts and can help us out. Because we're not of any delusions that Vermont Green FC, this little football club, is meant to be the tip of the spear of fixing the world. But we do feel that just providing sports entertainment was never going to be enough. Not for us, not for this community. For all of this to exist, it has to have something bigger attached to it. It has to have a purpose. And I think even just on what is our mission, what is environmental justice, sometimes it really just boils down to we live in unprecedentedly cruel times, and I think there's so much that the antidote to so much of this is just being together with other people. Community is just so important, and yeah, I think at very least there's so much that in this world that wants us to be isolated, and if at very minimum we're just being together and trying to discuss these issues while doing things that we enjoy, like watching football and enjoying it, it's we're just that much more equipped to combat these things, and I think that's really what the mission is.
Yeah, that was great. I feel like it's so interesting. It's such an incredible answer about your community, and it mirrors so much of what I was saying, what I love about Vermont, and I just find that to be really profound. And of course, we're saying the same things. We love this place for the same reasons. And I want to talk a little bit more about what we're talking about, the most important part of this club, the fans and the community. I think I want to know who's at a Vermont Green game. Can you describe the fans? What types of people are they? Who are we going to run into in the stands?
You'll see everyone. We've, in really interesting ways, I've met many people at Vermont Green games who said this is their first sporting event ever. And they heard about it through a friend, and then they ended up coming back again. I recognize them, catch them in the concourse, getting some free Ben & Jerry's or chatting with one of our food vendors or tabling nonprofits. It's a community space. I really think we want to build something that all are welcome, all are encouraged to really just come, meet a new person, make a friend, catch some goals, scream collectively with 2,500 people. There's really nothing more special, but.
Yeah, I don't know, just everybody, I hope.
Yeah.
It's. I think one of the cool things about this club is when you start something like this and it starts in our smaller circle, it starts by being something for me and my friends, and then it's you meet people who you don't know. It's still to this day so sick when I meet somebody that I don't know, in a kit. It's why does that person have that? But then I remember that this is growing, and it means something to people that aren't just ourselves, and that's it's humbling every time, and it's awesome. So yeah, I mean, I hope to see everyone at these games, and I think we're getting to that point where it's becoming a really great place for the community to gather, and also it's kind of becoming a bit of a hot ticket. These games are selling out. I mean, it's I don't know.
I know.
We're gonna have to hopefully expand somehow. So we'll see.
That sounds very exciting, very interesting. We're here in your fourth season. The club has grown every year. Season tickets sell out. Average attendance has increased steadily. Started the women's team. You played an Open Cup. We got Noah Khan in a kit. When you look out to the rest of this summer, what do you think the 2025 season will be remembered for?
I think we're gonna win a lot. I think we're gonna win a lot. Yeah, I mean, it's the season is off to such a good start. We've won all of our games. We're playing beautiful football thanks to our coaching staff and these players. And also, everyone just seems very happy, which is like the best part. Like we're in a good place, and I think getting into the women's week after such a good start, and we've game tomorrow night, the men's game tomorrow night, which we're really excited for. Hopefully, we'll continue our streak. But going into the women's week, like it's just like the vibes are so good. Like it's just this is like the epitome of what this club should feel like. It's like another game, and I know they're like very frequent because the summer season is short, and there's like sometimes a game like 2 days after the last game, which is great. But yeah, I think just we're hoping to just win a lot of games. We're hoping that people are going to be happy, and we're hoping we're going to just work towards the mission that we're all kind of on together.
Ultimately, this club runs on good vibes.
Oh my gosh!
Not just placing that.
How perfect! What a good plug.
And we're a few weeks into our season, but the group of coaching staff down to our interns to our players on the men's and women's side, it's been incredible this season. Really just next level vibes. The past years have been the same, but we really are just excited about what we brought together and what we're starting to build here. Yeah, this year.
So you have a game tomorrow night, Pride Night. Very exciting.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is my last question for you guys. When you think aspirationally at one of your late night meetings about Vermont Green as a club, what are your loftiest goals? And are there any big projects on the horizon?
Yeah, so we're always cooking up ways to build bigger and better. I think Vermont is limited in infrastructure. We all know if we're trying to go out to large events, there's limited spaces. The long, cold winter, there's very few indoor facilities to play soccer or indoor sports. Third places for people to show up and build that community in those spaces. So, long term, we'd love to find ways to build with our community, with our municipalities, and find ways to just grow and bring folks together as much as possible. It's such a quick summer season. We really start off in mid-May, and playoffs push through early August, but it's over in the blink of an eye. So, how do we grow this bigger, so it can be more of a year-round institution?
Yeah, I think the current state of Vermont Green FC is a beautiful thing, but it's only the beginning. And I think, like Sam said, one of the biggest things that we're going to need to figure out as we go forward is like, how do we expand this in multiple pillars? Like, how do we get more women's games? Like, what's the situation with women's soccer and the league situation? Or is it more games, more exhibition games? But so much of that depends on the infrastructure that we have in this community. And I think we are starting to spin the wheels and see like what does the future look like. And I think such a big part of this is Vermont needs facilities, it needs infrastructure. You grew up playing, at the highest level, what it takes and what you need to have access to, which I think Vermont doesn't have enough of right now. And I think like a big part of this coming year is going to be thinking about how do we figure something like that out, because I think and it's not just like, how does Vermont Green FC get a facilities or stadium? It's like, how do we find more space for the entire community to have access to, so that everyone can grow in this sense. So that's something we're starting to think about. And who knows, maybe there'll be a stadium here in Burlington someday. Like, I can't rule it out.
Well, I think that deserves applause, because I think, to you guys' point, it would be providing a lot more than just professional soccer for Vermont Green. It would be providing facilities and access to fields and third spaces, like you're talking about, for the community, for kids playing soccer at many levels. What, in very simple terms, again, I said this was my last question, but this is just a follow-up. What do you need from the community, from the government, in order to take the next step towards maybe building facilities or a stadium?
We're gonna figure it out, but I think like the step one is just like the continued enthusiasm from fans that like it has humbled us. It's been like such a beautiful thing to see, and like so long as the proof of the club is in the people that are enjoying it, and so long as we're having these full stadiums, people enjoying themselves, having fun, like it becomes a part of the community that is needed. We will have to expand it, and we're gonna need help. We're just like some fellas, honestly. So I think we're really at just getting started, but I think people holding us accountable and just like starting to ask around, ask your neighbors, ask people who know, like how do we build more, and how do we make sure it's built in a way that is serving everyone. And I think we'll have some more answers in a few months. Well, who knows?
Great. Well, we'll come right back here. I'll ask you again. Thank you guys so much, not only for coming on the show tonight, but for trusting me to coach the women's team. I am so excited for next week, and I'm honored to be a part of this with you guys. So thank you. And if we could all please stand up again, if you're able to, for Sam Glickman and Patrick Infurna. I feel like Pat number 1 and Sam number 2 really got us excited about this team with their vision. So I'm thrilled that we've got a couple more very important members of the Vermont Green squad. I've gotten to know these 2 players on the field, and now I can't wait to get to know them on the stage. It's Vermont Green's own Liv White and Roshann Purcell. How are the mics feeling?
I think good.
Good?
Yeah, maybe.
Good, great, amazing. Okay, Liv and Roshann, welcome to the women's game. As your head coach, I just wanted to check in to make sure that you're both hydrating appropriately for our first training on Sunday. So we've got you 2 glasses of water.
I needed that. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
It's been days.
That's not good. I was going to ask about your carbo loading, but we didn't have any spaghetti.
Need that.
Okay, for tonight, we'll just be friends. But starting tomorrow, it is Coach Mewis to both of you. Liv, you're originally from Vermont. You grew up in Pittsford. Shout out Pittsford again. You also played for UVM. And as someone who grew up here, how do you describe Vermont to people who've never been here?
It's the best place ever. Once you come here, you never want to leave. Like, swear to God, if you have a flat tire and you're useless and you're on the side of the road and you're making TikToks, people will pull over and help you. Like, not that that's happened to me
I was
before,
just
but-
going to say, it sounds like you're speaking from personal experience.
Yeah, definitely. But I love Vermont. Vermont is genuinely the best place on the planet. I'm from Pittsford, where there's like 2,000 people in the town, and you can walk into the country store, and they know who you are, they remember your face, they ask how you're doing, and they genuinely care. And I think that's what makes Vermont so special.
How would you describe the soccer culture here?
Unbelievable. Like I said, like people care, and the community wants to be involved. The community knows your face. It's electric. Like playing for Vermont Green, playing for UVM, you look into the stands and you know people. People know who you are. They come talk to you afterwards. The kids love you. It's amazing.
Roshann, you're an out-of-towner. Join the club. You're from Seattle, but you chose to come to Vermont to attend college at Middlebury. Apparently, shout out Seattle. People, you're getting some cheers, Roshann. What stood out to you about Vermont and the soccer opportunities when you were deciding where to go to school?
Yeah, I came to visit in June, which was a perfect month.
I'll say.
I toured Middlebury campus, and I had the day before to explore Burlington with my mom, and I just immediately fell in love with it. I remember walking around Burlington and on Church Street and seeing all the cute stores. That's my weakness. And then in Middlebury, walking in campus was one of the most like breathtaking experiences, and I just knew immediately that I had to come back here and I had to play here and go to school here. And Middlebury has been the best experience. I'm going to my senior year. I can't believe it.
Oh my gosh.
And I couldn't be more happy, and I love it so much.
That is so amazing. Is there anything about Vermont that actually kind of reminds you of the Pacific Northwest where you're from?
Definitely does. It's super outdoorsy, obviously. The trees, there's a lot of them. A lot of trees in the Pacific Northwest, too. And the community as well. The community in Seattle is, it's very casual and laid back and personable, and it's also obviously the same here in Vermont. And so I just felt like I was at home when I came here, so.
Oh my gosh, I love that. I felt the same way. Liv, your colleagues at UVM, the men's soccer team, who were unseeded during the tournament, unexpectedly won the national championship last fall.
Crazy.
How did you experience that as a women's soccer player at UVM? And what do you think that level of success says about the trajectory of soccer's growth here in Vermont?
Yeah, growing up, like this was something that I could have never imagined. Like I had to travel 3 hours to Boston just to like play competitive soccer. So like to see soccer in Vermont booming is a dream come true. And I'm friends with a lot of boys on the team. And I unfortunately wasn't able to like, make the game, but all my friends were there, and the vibes were unreal. I'm so proud of them. So to see them win, like thinking of years ahead, I just see soccer in Vermont just continuing to grow, especially with the men's program, our program, Vermont Green. Like, I'm hoping it continues to boom.
I think all signs are pointing that way. Girls, we all worked together already last season for the inaugural Vermont Green women's game, which we won in penalty kicks. And so just remember, we're just friends right now. It's not coach, player till tomorrow. How would you describe me as a coach last year?
The best coach ever, obviously. Like, what? Best coach.
Was it what you expected?
Yeah. You're funnier than I would have like thought. You're actually really funny.
I would agree with that.
Really funny. And like you're a superstar, and I thought I'd be like really intimidated by you, but like I think we're like kind of best friends. We're really close or something.
I'm not being hard enough on the players.
Like I know like I'm gonna walk on the field and like not get screamed at by you. Like that's a great feeling.
Good. Well, I hope that instills some confidence. Roshann, do you have anything to add?
I would say you're extremely intelligent, great soccer brain, super good at coaching.
Really pretty.
Really, really good.
Coaching for me was such a whirlwind. I mean, we talked about how quick it was. It was actually only 4 days. We had 3 days of training, 1 game. And as I've mentioned a few times tonight, I was really nervous. I kept saying, what if we lose 6-0? I didn't tell you guys that.
Thank God.
But I wasn't just nervous for the game. I just wanted to do a good job for the team and make sure that the week was beneficial for you. There's nothing worse as a player than being stuck in a situation that doesn't serve what you need to train and play well. But you all did such an amazing job making me feel confident. You were hungry for information. You were responsive. You seemed like you were having a good time. And then when we won, oh my gosh, it was what an incredible moment. And Ro, you actually scored the game-winning penalty kick last year. And I know. We're going to watch it. We're going to watch it.
And it's up to a Middlebury College player. Roshann Purcell has the game on her right foot. Purcell. It's over!
Give it up for Roshann.
Vermont Green win their first ever women's match in style.
Oh my gosh. Roshann, what do you remember about that moment? And did you ever expect to be the hero?
No, definitely not. As a center back, you never expect to be the hero. I honestly don't remember very much. I think I blacked out. Longest walk to a PK spot probably ever. The only thing I was thinking about was there's so many people here and I don't want to let them down. I think the moment that gave me confidence though was when our goalkeeper saved that PK. I can't thank her enough still to this day. But I was so nervous. Definitely highlight of my soccer career for sure. I don't think I could top that with anything. It was so unreal. It was so amazing. I was so happy to celebrate with everyone. The first thought that went through my mind was run to your team. This is so awesome. And I think I hugged you first. I thought that I like ran you over. We hit each other hard.
I think I had bruised knees after that for sure. And
sorry.
knees buckled, so.
Weren't you 6th? Were you the
Yes.
6th kick? And had we even...
No, you didn't tell us.
We didn't.
Who sixth was.
I didn't really know that. Now I know. I learned a lot my first year coaching. Now I know. We're gonna practice PKs. We're gonna talk through the whole roster. But did you self-elect to go 6th?
Not sort of. You gave us 1 through 5. And
Professional, appropriate. Like it's an okay job. I did an okay job.
You said you were gonna give us 6, 7, 8, and then that didn't happen, which is totally okay. It worked out in the end. But I happened to be standing 6th, and I sort of looked down the line of people, and I was like, does anyone want to take this? Nobody wanted to take it. And I was like, okay, make it look natural, just start walking. And I just had to do it. And so I did it.
I mean, that's really brave. I did not know what Roshann was just going to say, and I felt very exposed here on stage. So I don't recommend asking questions that you don't know the answer to. Roshann, that was incredible. You're sixth probably forever if you're not one. But we will practice, and I will be more prepared next time. We have 2 more games coming up. You two will be a huge part of leading this team to, hopefully, 2 more wins. Liv, what would you say to the fans about next week? What can they expect from the women's team?
Electricity. Like, it's going to be, the energy is going to be insane. I think it might be the game of the century, honestly. I don't think anything's going to top it. Everyone needs to come prepared because we are going to win the next 2 games, and we're going to remain undefeated following last year. I think that's...
Did you girls know that the games are sold out?
Of course they're sold out. Of course.
She knows how to rely on her Vermont community. We've heard here tonight, obviously, that Vermont is a very special place to both of you, to me as well. And when you think about the growth of soccer here in this area, can you both kind of project forward and envision this club with a full women's season, maybe winning trophies, maybe even playing someday in its own soccer-specific stadium? What does it mean to you personally to be a part of the growth of the game in Vermont and to see Vermont Green women become something bigger every season?
Honestly, it would mean the world. I think when I came to Vermont my freshman year of college, Vermont Green was very new, and having the women's side was one first step that felt so huge. And thinking about it being in a league and winning trophies and having a stadium is so incredible, and it brings me so much joy. And seeing the little girls in the stands with the signs that say everyone watches women's sports, specifically last year, was so heartwarming, and it gave me so much hope and excitement for the future. And there's no other way to put it than it would just mean the world, and it would be so amazing to see it from the start to see it flourish later.
Yeah, that would be a dream come true. Like, as a Vermonter, like seeing soccer explode, especially from a club with such a great social mission that means a lot to me and all fellow Vermonters. That would be a dream come true, and to all of the little girls and little boys who are dreaming to see professional soccer in Vermont and eventually potentially play professional soccer in Vermont. That's very exciting, and like Roshann said, watching it from start to finish would be unreal.
Well, it's all very exciting, everybody. Thank you, girls, so much for sharing that. Thank you again to Liv and Roshann. That was beautiful. Thank you to all of our guests who have helped make this show so special. And thanks specifically to all of you who have helped make this night so memorable. When some of you came in early, I'm assuming most of these front row folks, thank you so much for being here early. Some of my co-workers solicited some questions from you all. So we are going to do a quick Q&A section. I did screen some of the questions. I will be honest with you guys. I wanted to make sure I really wanted to answer them and have fun with you all. Abby, I love that. They wrote me a little... Oh my gosh, no way. And you're sitting front row at the women's game live in Vermont. That's incredible. Okay, Abby, their question is, how's your new doggo? How are they getting along with Finn? Love you. That is very sweet. Thank you, girls, so much. I did just get a new puppy a few weeks ago. His name is Chester. I think we have a picture. No picture. You can go on my Instagram. He's doing great. Thank you for asking. He's about 12 weeks. He's in the crate right now. The poor baby. We've got to rush home to get him. But he's doing good. Finn, my other dog, who's 5 years old, is a little jealous. Finn is very gentle, and Chester has been stealing Finn's food, bones, etc. But they wrestle a lot, they play a lot. It's really fun, and it's been so fun to have 2 dogs, but I'm not sleeping nearly as well as I was before. Abby, such a great question. Thank you for asking about literally my favorite thing to talk about. Okay, Kay and Megan. Oh my God. Did you guys drive here? From North Carolina? Okay, so, yeah. Yep. I knew it. Okay, I'll read their question and then I'll give some backstory. Kay and Megan wrote, who is your favorite fan from section 108, Go Courage, and why is it us? I know. I picked this question too. I played for the North Carolina Courage for most of my professional career, and Similarly to Vermont, I made friends with the fans, and you all were absolutely a part of my favorite section. I remember you all fondly. We shared a photo and an exchange after a lot of games, and your support meant so much to us, and specifically to me. How long was the drive? 14 hours. You left yesterday. What are you doing while you're in Burlington? Well, I named literally all my favorite places at the beginning of the show, so I recommend them. And there's a men's Vermont Green game tomorrow night, and it's Pride Night. I'll see you there. And potentially meet the whole women's team. Thank you so much for coming. They thought it was women's tickets when they bought the ticket. You can stay till Wednesday. Oh, man. Okay, we have one more question from Allie. Have you been swimming in the lake yet this year? I do have a story about this. It looks like somebody already knows what story. Do you guys want to hear it? Would you believe that I have swum in the lake so far this year twice? Or do you think it would be cold? So do you think it's crazy? Okay, well, I'm doing this swim race in Lake Tahoe, which is also going to be cold. It's in July. It's a relay race. We have to swim across the width of Lake Tahoe. I've been training really hard for this race. So my husband and I, geniuses that we are, thought the lake would be warm enough by now, it's June, that he would kayak out and I would swim and I would get my workout in the lake and practice being in open water and practice being in cold water. It was not like flat. Like the lake was not glass, as they say. It was a little choppy. There were some are they called white caps? But I was like, I need to work out. So like we're going. It's, that competitive mentality that we have seen a lot on the screen behind me. Pat, number 2 tonight, I think. Pat, number 2, my husband, goes in the kayak. We get about 20 yards out, and I need to stop for a second to catch my breath because it's 55 degrees. My Apple Watch told me it was 55 degrees in the lake. That was really cold. So I was kind of doing the it was really cold, everybody. And then I pause for a minute, and I look over to Pat, and the kayak's upside down. And Pat's in the lake. And now he's catching his breath. And his phone's in his pocket. And I'm going, you're okay. But I can't breathe, and he can't breathe, and the kayak's upside down. We drag it in. And then the next night, we went back out. We went into the lake again. And we swam out, and we had a much better time. It was still cold, but it's getting there, everybody. It's getting there quickly. Allie, such a great question. I honestly really am glad I got to tell that story. I feel like Vermonters will understand that the lake is still cold right now and maybe needs a couple more weeks. That was incredible. Thank you, everybody who submitted questions. I wish I could have answered them all. If you didn't get your question answered and you really want to, you can send me an email at womensgamemib@menandblazers.com. This has been the most incredible night, everybody. Like I said at the beginning, Vermont is a really special place, and getting to live here while simultaneously feeling so embraced and loved by the soccer community has been one of the greatest gifts of my life. When I retired, I really didn't know if or how I would find myself back on the field. When I moved to Vermont, that question was answered by this soccer club in a way that I never really expected. And the joy of being a part of a team again, and honestly, yes, the joy of winning and of hanging on to a piece of myself that I thought was gone forever has given me a sense of belonging that I think we're all searching for. And to have this place and this club answer that call for me is something that I will always hold really dear to my heart. But it's time to do it all again. The women's team is getting together tomorrow to attend the men's game, and then we're training on Sunday. I have some incredible staff joining me to coach these women, from whom I'm certain that I will learn so much, like to pick your 6 through 10 penalty kick takers. I'm excited to get to know the players. I'm excited about the challenge, and what I'm really looking the most forward to is sharing my love for this place and this game with the team and with the fans. I feel like coaching is my opportunity to plant the seeds of joy and love for soccer into others. So that's what tonight was really all about. It was my opportunity to tell you what this means to me. So please come out to the games. They're on Wednesday and Saturday at Virtue Field. A huge thank you to Higher Ground for hosting us, to our guests tonight, Meg Linehan, Sam Glickman, Patrick Infurna, Liv White, and Roshann Purcell. Thank you to the entire team at the women's game and Men in Blazers. And thank you all so much to you all for being here tonight, but for welcoming me to Vermont in a way that means everything to me. I'm Sam Mewis, up the green. Thank you so much.